Welcome to the Awaken Your Potential guided meditation series. Simply find a comfortable position and enjoy this meditation. And so last week when we were doing this practice, which we'll explore again to a certain degree today, is how can we come in and rest in a space in a meditative awareness where everything is seen and experienced exactly the same. And so at this point, the only way that that's really possible is if we dissolve the barriers between subject and object, something that's aware and something that's we're being aware of. And this can be a kind of a hard thing to grasp at times because our whole physical life is around a subject, a body, and objects, people, places, and things, right? Or when we close our eyes, first layer meditation would be there's an awareness or a witness, an observer, and then there is an object of thought, of feeling, of sensation, right? So that's the deeper layer because that's what makes up all of the people, places, and things. It's just movements of mind, sensation, and emotion, right? Feeling, energy. So when we go even beyond that, we go beyond even something being aware. This is where we get to the space where everything is just simply seen as the exact same thing because the subject and the object have merged. And some of us, depending on how long we've practiced, we may have experienced this in meditation. And often this is not just some big blown out, meditation experience. It could be as simple as just pure silence. Because in the space of pure silence, true silence, not just silence of mind, but like thought, true silence, where there isn't really a feeling like there's something observing anything because there's nothing to observe. So this is where the subject and the object, the witness and what's being witnessed begins to merge. And as that merging happens, you don't just disappear into space dust, right? You may think, oh, we're going to go into nothingness. We just disappear into nothingness. No, you still exist here, but the existence now is true. It's real. Because for the first time, maybe, we're actually experiencing the reality of things, not the illusionary ideas we give to things with the mind that come with a million different ideas, expectations, attachments, labels, judgments, traumas and triggers and all of that. That's inherently that's what 99% of the people in the world will live, just a life just filled with that. And more importantly, a life identified with those things as if they are real. So I'm just going through this because last week we really covered an important piece, which was the source of all suffering is simply false identification. Identifying something that we think is real as if it's real, but it's actually not, right? It's like a child thinking a boogeyman under the bed is real. In the moment, everything feels as if it's real. So you can't really convince the child of anything otherwise until they take a look under the bed, right? And when they take a look and they actually get the experience, the direct knowing that, oh, what I thought was real, maybe my whole life or this whole time I've been sleeping on this bed, I now look and see there is no boogeyman under the bed. Right? So this is essentially the only way we can uproot suffering in our experiences when we come to see reality for what it is. What is reality? What is actually real? Right? And that's enlightenment. That is the primary goal of all humans on this planet. So let's go in and explore that and see how that feels. So whenever we feel ready, we can close our eyes and find a comfortable position, just seated or lying down, or however you want, really, whatever feels good to you. And as we close our eyes, we're simply bringing our attention to what is now. And so as we rest in what is here and now, an infinite number of things may arise and occur. And so our only real duty here is to simply be okay with all of that. And the way in which this occurs is by way of what we may perceive as being aware, what we may perceive as just witnessing. We may be witnessing various sensations, thoughts, feelings that are arising here in this body, in this and through this subjective view. And so we'll simply be with all of that. And sometimes we may need a focal point of attention so that we can gain a certain focus. And so, with that focus may come a particular focus within the body, feeling into that sense of self. So, when we feel into that sense of self or that sense of I exist, I am, sometimes these statements, repeating this statement in the mind can help. We'll generally be pulled directly to where we feel that, which is often in the center of the chest. Sometimes we call this the higher heart region. Maybe it's a bit higher than the center of the chest, and into the torso, into the body. And so we're simply focusing upon this. There's nothing that needs to be done other than the focus upon this sense of I, the sense I exist, the sense I am, which may be felt as a certain beingness or a sense of fullness. There may be an actual sense there, a feeling there. So, whatever it is, we're just focusing upon that. And of course, there may be a myriad of movements of mind and thought and sensation and other things that may come and go. And so, as long as we're just continuing to come back to that sense that sense I am, that feeling sense, then this can be the focus for some time. And so, as we have this focus, then the importance upon the movements of thought and feeling, sensation continue to dwindle. Things that may have been important today or on your mind or seemingly holding a place in your consciousness, these things may have begun to dissolve, or just the charge behind those things may have begun to dissolve and just lighten up. And in this lightening, we continue to more easily return to this sense of I, or this sense of I amness. We're just simply recognizing that consistent sense of beingness, a consistent sense of presence that remains no matter the movements of thought, feeling, sensation, no matter what continues to come and go. There is a consistent essence that is untouched, that doesn't rise and fall, that doesn't move, it doesn't expand and contract. It's consistent and ever present. It's like if we were to try and grasp the present moment. We can often conceptualize about the present moment, but can we actually come to know the most minute, essential nature of the present moment? And so we can see that this can't be done with the mind, because at any time we think we've grasped it or come to it, it's already changed. And yet, even though it's ungraspable or seemingly ungraspable, it is still something that is known. There is still a knowing at the core of this present moment, the concept of this at least. And so we see here there's this never ending focus upon that in which cannot be grasped. There is a never ending surrender into this complete and utter emptiness, a complete void of anything that the mind can come up with or try and hold on to or attach to. And yet, even in this emptiness, or what may seem as empty to the mind, especially as thought may come to a zero or a very nullified emotional state, there is still a certain fullness that may emerge here. So, a certain simultaneity of both emptiness and a fullness, this infinite spaciousness that still seems ever so full. And so, by connecting with this is what fills up the entirety of our perceived reality. Every thought, feeling, sensation, every person, place, thing, circumstance, everything that could possibly be conceived within our field of view is filled simultaneously by this emptiness and this fullness, or this love, this pure silent love. And so we're not painting a picture on top of things to make it seem like this silent love. We are literally coming to the most essential origin of the fabric in which makes and creates all things. And this happens right directly within ourselves, within the core of ourselves. But you can see here that as we explore this, we may potentially dissolve the barriers or the boundary of what we see to be ourselves and what we see to be another, or some world or universe or object. Because we are going to the inside and bringing it out. We're seeing that at the core is this pure, silent love, the core of all of creation. And thus, everything that is perceived is manifested as this. And it just simply takes a infinite and numerous different forms of what it's appearing as, like an apple or a person or a planet or an idea or an emotion. And so all of these things can stay exactly as they are. None of them need to be changed or molded into something more glorious, more glamorous, more perfect or loving or spiritual. They can all be exactly how they are and what they are and as they are. But the true meaning of these statements, or to see something exactly as it is to not see it as what it's appearing as, but more accurately to see it as what it actually is, which is this pure, silent love, this just simply what it is, just this pure essence that can be felt and known. Everything that can be used to describe it is, of course, not it. And so we're going to surrender into this silence within ourselves for a few moments here and just simply explore this. So, through this practice of a perpetual surrender to this silent space, this emptiness within all that is perceived, and specifically within the core of one's being, where there isn't so much an interest in observing the plethora of movements, at least from a standpoint of needing to analyze or figure out what sensations, thoughts, feelings are emerging and why they're emerging or what their meaning is. Instead, we're moving beyond all of what is appearing and we're continuing to dissolve into this complete infinite space. And yet, even within this infinite space, there may be many different thoughts or images or visuals or energetic movements that occur, though nothing is attached to, nothing is being held on to, nothing needs to be analyzed. Everything just can simply be seen for exactly what it is and exactly as it is. This is the space that is void of labels and judgments and ideas. And this spaciousness can expand through every cell in the body naturally. From this space, we may have already dissolved or getting glimpses of feeling a dissolution of where the end of the body meets the chair or the couch or the air that's around you. It could feel almost as if there's no boundary, there's no barrier. It's as if the skin has dissolved. Any boundary between self and other, or self and object, or the world just becomes one whole existence, one whole self. And so we can see here that something like the golden rule of treating another as we desire to be treated is actually a supreme teaching that is the primary teaching, because it returns us to recognizing that there is only one self. And so, if our definition of ourselves has expanded and extended into everything we perceive, everything we come in contact with, then we would only come with a certain sense of compassion and joyfulness and love and respect and integrity for all beings. And of course, from this vantage point of connecting to this essential source of silent love within all of creation, then anything that's perceived in the body that feels discordant or uneasy, feels like there's any blocks or anything arising within the body's field, naturally anything that is observed is instantly brought to this space. And this at times comes with practice, but once it is seen, once it's directly known or experienced, then all energy healing or emotional processing or particular things that cause disease in the body can be instantly transmuted and released, processed, transformed. This is the source of all forms of any miracle healing that we've ever heard of or witnessed. All miracle healing simply comes from this vantage point, seeing not something as what it's appearing as, but what it actually is. And so, what a gift of grace that we deliver to all that we come in contact with as we go about our day and our life, to simply see all things just as they are, without our judgments and ideas and projections, but simply as they are. And so we will take whatever time we need in this. Some of us may feel called to continue for some time within this space. Others may feel complete. Those who do feel complete, then you're welcome to open our eyes and return. Though there's no time frame here, we can stay within this for as long as we individually need, or simply would enjoy. At a certain point, the essence of this is just pure enjoyment. There's no purpose with it, just simply to be perpetually in this enjoyment. If we have completed or we feel complete and we feel called to share anything in the comments or ask any questions, I'll leave it open. Time flew by. I love the vastness of the space today. Yes. That vastness is infinite and eternal, and it's always accessible if we're willing to go there, if we're willing to see. So, the visual that I was getting as we were exploring this, it's kind of like a balloon where it's almost like you're blowing up reality, like a balloon. So everything we see, some idea we hold about some person or some situation or I don't know, any object, like I'm looking at this USB cord or something. We're filling it up like a balloon. All these solid things, we think all these things are so solid, not malleable, right? Especially like a physical object, like a table or this physical object. Okay, it's a solid, right? Or a person, maybe even a person acts in a certain way all the time. This is how they are. This is just how they are. And so it's solid. It holds a certain solidity. Or like we said, miracle healing, like a disease, tumor, some issue in the body, some emotional trouble. When we're thinking what is appearing as taking it for as if it's absolutely real, it's absolutely true. then it's like we're holding it. It's so solid, so thick, so dense. But when we're coming to this, to come to know, it's as if everything is being blown up like a balloon. So although something may appear as so solid, it's actually completely empty on the inside. Yeah. Every ounce of it actually is simultaneously empty, but yet still appearing as something. Right. So this is the essence of the truth of source, realizing the nature of the absolute source, is that it's simultaneously completely empty, but yet also completely full. That's why it feels light, but yet there's a fullness, there's a love, there's a like a feeling of being held within that space. Right? So the movement of this practice is to engage all of our experience with that and as that. It's essentially the exploration. Everything is perceived. So the meditative process of this is used as a means to, hours upon hours upon hours on end, exploring this with such intensity and exploring any possible thing where that feels not true. There may be a certain topic or a certain energy or certain something that seems absolutely solid. Everything else is silent love, but this thing is solid. And often we won't even know what that is until it arises in our life. It just comes to it like, oh yeah, okay. So it's a never-ending practice, really. It doesn't really ever end. It continues to engage, and then it's the foundation by which then it explores into many other different forms of practice, and methods and nuances to the same approach that may give, further depth or application in context to something in particular. Like I was mentioning, the chanting and the singing. That's just another form of a practice that is useful in its own right. Right. But the meditative process like this is such a foundational, like I said, it's basic but yet highly advanced, because it is it's like the direct path. It's the direct. All the other stuff can be almost distracting at times, but that's for each of us to determine what's a distraction and what's not. Right. So yeah, I mean, I'm in no rush if there's any questions or anything or comments to that, but I mean, you guys are free to go as whenever you like. I'll probably upload this one too, because that was quite powerful. They all are.